Hello, and thank you for joining me. Today we visit a world-famous farmers market in Los Angeles, California, where I meet up with my chef friend and former coworker who helps me pick out some of the best produce. Then I take my haul back to my temporary home where I improvise a couple of really fresh dishes. So, let's get into it. Chefs love quality ingredients, and so it's easy to understand why I was so excited to visit the Santa Monica's farmers market for a Wednesday opening in the height of summer. California is the most productive agricultural state in the U.S. They produce nearly half of the fruits, nuts, and vegetables that the rest of the country consumes. And beyond domestic supply, they also export to over 200 other countries around the world. So clearly this is a state that knows the game of agriculture. And at the Santa Monica's farmers market, you can find some of the best goods that the state has to offer. It is a sprawling expanse of stalls where award-winning farms sell to not only the public but also to eager local chefs who want only top-quality produce for their dishes. At the farmers market, you can certainly find the most common ingredients, but what makes it extra special is the presence of so many heirloom varieties of fruits and vegetables that are a rare treat for me. It can honestly be a bit overwhelming. But lucky for me, I had my friend, the Cuban chef, there to guide the way. We worked together in the hustle and bustle of the New York City fine dining life, but now he is out in LA enjoying the sun and following his heart in the form of many projects. One of our former coworkers had actually advised me to meet up with him at the market. Her words were, "He knows everyone." And not long after meeting up with him and heading in, it became clear she was not exaggerating. One minute he would be with me, pointing out a fruit that I just had to try, and then he would disappear. Then suddenly he would show up on the other side of the counter, talking with some of the people running the stall, in some cases even helping customers decide what to get. Other times he was at the back of a farmer's truck, chatting or getting access to the stuff that wasn't even on the counter. I think he might be the most popular guy here. His excitement is contagious. If you are watching this and happen to frequent this market, you probably know him too. Seeing and sampling all this great produce and seeing all the excited vendors and customers had me inspired. So much so that I ended up buying more than I would be able to use during my short stay in Los Angeles, but that meant my host had some great veggies waiting for him in the fridge when I left. Before I left the market, my friend showed me his latest investment, and how he had outfitted it so that he could easily do pop-up cooking events. So, keep your eyes out for a white 80s GMC van if you live in the LA area, and follow him on Instagram to keep tabs on all the great project that he gets into. And thank you so much for showing me around, Flacco. Your appreciation for raw ingredients and the farmers who work hard to bring it to us is inspiring. It's something both chefs and home cooks alike should always keep in mind. Back at the ranch, I laid out the spread and tried to finalize my plan of attack. The main objective was to let the produce shine and be the star of the show. After stopping by a place that had a wonderful variety of beans, my brain had locked on to the idea of doing some kind of bean salad. So that was decided on, but I had enough produce to make more than just a bean salad. So what to do? Well, on my first night in LA, I had gone out to eat with my good friend, as well as my editor-in-chief, and we had ordered a panzanilla salad that looked very simple, but was loaded with flavor. I decided to use that as my inspiration for my dish, a sort of vegetable medley showcase, yet, in this case, no croutons. The dishes would take no time to put together, but I would first need to prep all the ingredients, and there would definitely be some crossover with certain veggies ending up in both dishes. I started by shelling the fresh beans, which would need to be cooked, though they would take much less time than dried beans. Just look at the color of those little beauties. They look like gems to me. Once they are all shelled, I just put them in a pot with some water and a few aromatics and let them simmer until they were tender. Then I added a little salt to the water and let them sit in that flavorful broth while I continued prepping. I would be putting some yellow beans in my bean salad, so I just trimmed the stem part of them. Then I blanched them in salted boiling water until they were just slightly tender before removing them from the water. and because they are yellow, not green beans, I didn't have to worry about losing much color by not putting them in an ice bath. Next up, I had these gorgeous dragon's tongue beans, which are the young version of cranberry beans. They can be eaten raw and have a great earthy sweet taste, but for the sake of variety in taste and texture, I would be blanching a few of them also. I just trim the ends and then I cut them into approximate 1-inch pieces on the bias and cook it in the same way as the yellow beans. I cut the raw ones into smaller pieces because I didn't want the raw texture of big pieces to overwhelm a dish. I bought a couple of these pretty little purple yellow peppers. I just cut them in half, removed the seeds, and then I cut them into little squares, yet still big enough so they wouldn't get lost in the mix. Then I leave some raw, and the rest I give just a little charring in a super hot pan. This will be a theme that is repeated. And now these are sun gold tomatoes, and they are fantastic. They are an heirloom variety that came into more mainstream awareness a few years ago. Very sweet, great acid. I take half of them and slice them in two at the axis, and the other half I just remove the stem and then squeeze the tomato until it squishes a bit, getting a little juice on the lens in the process. The squashed tomatoes would be perfect for my bean salad, whereas the neatly sliced ones would be more ideal for the veggie misto. Next up, I couldn't resist buying a few of those perfect looking baby zucchinis. The last time I saw zucchinis this perfect was in Morocco. All I do with them after washing them is to take the stem off and then slice them into coins on the bias, leaving them just thick enough so that they would stand up to the next stage of their journey, charring in a very hot pan. Beans love a little heat, so that seemed like a good excuse to buy a handful of shishito peppers. They also get a royal treatment in a hot pan. I let them cool and then chop them coarsely. My friend had me try this pretty firm variety of nectarines while at the market. Because they weren't so sweet and had integrity, it made them a great choice as an addition to a veggie salad. But first, they would also get a char kiss from the hot pan for some caramelized depth of flavor. And last in the pan go the diced red onions. Beans and onions love each other, especially if the onions have some good color on them, which is what we are doing here. This also takes the powerful raw edge off, which could potentially distract from the taste of the other ingredients. So now, after a little prep session, we have all our components ready. And by charring some of the ingredients, we have extended our flavor, texture, and color range. Now for assembling. For the bean salad, I have my fresh plump beans, my squished sun gold tomatoes, the caramelized onions, the charred and chopped shishitos, and I have a bit more yellow beans than I need for this salad, so I don't put all of them in here. Next, some of those purple yellow mild peppers, and then some of the raw dragon tongue as well. Then I realize I probably need a bigger bowl, so I switch things up. And every salad needs a dressing, so I add a splash of that bean cooking liquid, a good glug of red wine vinegar, a good pinch of salt, a grind of black pepper, some olive oil, and for some herbaceousness I take some basil and give it a rough chop. You can hear just how fresh it is as the knife goes through it. So in goes a little handful. Flacco also insisted I try a green Meyer lemon, so I bought one and finished our bean salad with a squeeze of that. Now we just give that a toss and we are ready to go. But honestly, the longer it sits there, the more time those beans will have to soak in some of that magic. So I let it sit for a bit before plating. Then when the time actually came to plate, I remembered I had bought a couple of wonderful avocados. When in California, right? So I cut half of one into nice chunks and then tossed some of my bean salad with those avocado pieces. And then it was truly ready to plate. Decent colors, but not the most glamorous looking. But what it lacks in photo friendliness, it makes up for in flavor. Spicy, herbal, earthy, with some great crunch from those raw veggies. Do not doubt the power of a great bean salad. But we are not done yet. Let's put together our color symphony. I've got my charred baby zucchini, charred nectarines and purple yellow peppers, small slices of the raw dragon's tongue beans, then the cleanly sliced cherry tomatoes, and then our larger pieces of blanched dragon tongues beans, then a squeeze from the other half of that green Meyer lemon, a good twist from the salt grinder, and then a good toss so that salt can start to help all those flavors meld together a bit. And when you weren't looking, I actually made a vinaigrette for this dish. Very simple, just some red wine vinegar, olive oil, salt, and one of those roasted shishito peppers that I chopped up finely. Now we are ready to plate. I will put a bit of that vinaigrette down on the bottom of the plate, then set our mixed fruit and veggie assembly on top. And then I spoon just a bit more of that vinaigrette on top, as well as adding a few torn basil leaves. And oh wow, would you just look at how colorful that is. Even if it tastes horrible, it's undeniably a Technicolor dream salad. Though, honestly, I'm not worried about it tasting horrible. But I will say it is a lot of veggies. So, maybe to make it a little more indulgent, we go ahead and add a half a globe of a beautiful burrata. And then of course give that the proper adornment of salt and olive oil. And I did say no croutons, but that's only because the bread I had on hand was so fresh I thought it would be best to just serve toasted on the side. Oof! As a chef, this is my idea of California dreaming. 2 great dishes of the utmost freshness. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this look at a really wonderful farmer's market and hope that it gives you some inspiration to try to connect with your food in a more direct way wherever you are. California has a lot to offer, but I'm certain there are some really special fruits and vegetables to be found wherever you might find yourself. And recipes are helpful, but as you can see, you don't need one to go shopping. In fact, going without recipes is a great practice in creativity and can take stress out of the equation altogether. So, be bold and wing it! And thanks again to Flacco for showing me around the market. You made my visit there extra special. I look forward to seeing what you get up to in the future. If you enjoyed this video, please make like a little cherry tomato and squish that like button, and subscribe while you are at it, because there are a lot of great videos in my catalog and many more to come, so Brian and I would love to have you along for the ride. And comments are very much encouraged. Do you like to go to the farmer's market where you live? What are some of your favorite things to get there? And dare I ask, what do you think of what I made? I look forward to hearing from you. Until next time, cheers!